fact, it's already getting pretty wild out there in the Kingston Harbor. You can see we've got some white caps and some pretty heavy rain going on right now. This view is probably going to be quite incredible over the next couple of hours, as well as some of the storm surge starts coming in. We've got a bunch of stuff down here in downtown Kingston. And once again, I must say that, maybe I spoke too soon about you not being able to tell that there's a hurricane coming. This is a much quieter view than what I was looking at earlier. This is about 2 hours ago when I looked at these cameras for the first time. I swear it looked like there was a festival going on out in the middle of these streets. But now things are pretty dead. So hopefully people are taking this seriously and getting the heck out of the Dodge, especially in the low-lying areas near the coast. But yeah, this is all coming from Sea Jamaica. We've got a bunch of cameras out there. I don't know how long they'll stay online, but we've got a bunch to show you what's going on as the storm comes in. And of course, we're still working with Severe Studios and Live Storms Media. If they've got a stringer or a chaser that ends up popping up out there, we will get them as well over here onto the stream. So how are we doing, chat? How are we doing? It's a long time no see. Doing good? Awesome. Yeah, we are going to watch these reconnaissance planes over the next few hours. And I don't know exactly when landfall is going to happen. Our estimate right now is about 16 hours from now. There's a chance that we'll do live landfall coverage as well, but that'll likely be separate from what we're doing right now. Yeah. Yeah, once again, it's been a while since we've been live. Just make sure everything's looking good, everything's sounding good. Melissa is a Category 5 hurricane with sustained winds of 175 miles per hour as it approaches Jamaica. It's moving about 5 miles per hour, which is crazy. Absolutely crazy. Yeah, Andy's here. Andy's going to chime in whenever he's got something. Yeah, it's moving slow, but it's not going to be moving that slow whenever it makes landfall. We're going to be able to really notice just looking at this satellite imagery whenever that more northerly turn happens. We're going to notice that it's going to start speeding up as well. And now it's not going to rocket off at like 60 miles per hour or anything, but instead of 2 to 5 miles per hour, we might be talking about 7, 8, 9 miles per hour at some point. Tonight and towards tomorrow morning. And then once it actually makes landfall in Jamaica and starts moving past it towards Cuba, that's when it's really going to speed up. Move Ryan back to the bottom left corner. You guys notice everything. Honestly, with the hurricane coverage, the main thing that we're going to be looking at here is satellite. So our normal thing that we do isn't necessary. So we're just testing out a couple different things. We do have a word from Andy, meteorologist Andy Hill. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Ryan, how's this sound?
Good.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm here too, guys, and I just wanted to let you know that I am watching the chat. So if you guys have any more general questions about the hurricane that isn't necessarily, when does it make landfall and all this, because Ryan will periodically go over that. He'll rattle it off like it's nothing. We'll be on this all evening, basically, with that. If you have any more in-depth questions, I can try to pick those out, see if I can craft up a response and chime in with some of those. So it's good to see you all. Glad we can all be here. Hopefully our words do make an impact even at this stage in the game. But I am glad to see all of the coordinated efforts of weather-wise, setting up these cameras and all sorts of good stuff like that. So wishing the best for everyone in the path of this.
Well, thank you so much, meteorologist Andy Hill. Yeah, we're definitely wishing the best for everybody in the path of this, and hopefully the message has gotten out there. I know that this has been a very well covered event, almost to the point of annoyance probably for some people in Jamaica. I've definitely seen some of that sentiment, I guess you could say, on social media. But like, hey, listen, this is a very serious situation. This is some of the stuff that some of the data that's coming in, and likely some of the data that we're about to see coming in from these reconnaissance missions is actually scary. Like, it's actually crazy to think that a storm of this magnitude is about to impact Jamaica. You would think that Jamaica gets hit by storms of this magnitude all the time, given its position, but it doesn't. So we're not sure exactly how it's going to handle a direct hit from a storm so powerful. But once again, I just got to talk about the storm and how it's still meandering off to the west a little bit. It's going to wobble within this cone here, but notice how we still haven't seen that direct north trajectory yet. It's just moving pretty much due west inside of that cone there over the past several hours. So let's go back to the planes real quick. Let's see if we've gotten any updates. This one over here, AF301, is getting closer. It's in the outer bands. It's not, giving us anything useful just yet. The maximum winds that it's, recorded so far is to 25 miles per hour. Same thing with the other one, but it's getting closer. It's actually just about to enter the storm here as it's moving 400 miles per hour at an altitude of 15,000 feet towards the storm. And once again, it's going to do a number like this. It's going to go in, it's going to try to get in the eye, and then it'll like turn around and it'll come back up this way like an hourglass thing. And it'll do that a couple of times, and then eventually it'll have to go back. These things can stay in the air for like 6 hours. So we're going to get a lot of good information out of both of these planes. And it's actually kind of unusual to see two in there at the same time. So we're going to get a lot of information really fast once they get in there closer. If you're just now tuning in, we are going to be doing live coverage of this reconnaissance data that's coming in. We're going to, do everything we can to cover that, and then also go over some warnings and information for Jamaica. So as usual, feel free to share us out there on social media: Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, TikTok, whatever it is. Help us get out in front of as many people as possible. We couldn't, we're not advertising. We don't have commercials out there or anything. You guys are the only way that anybody even knows we exist. So if you feel like what we're doing here is valuable and useful, feel free to share us out there. It helps a lot. So yeah, Category 5, Melissa, we're estimating that it's going to make landfall in 16 hours, 27 minutes, and 44 seconds. Now, you'll notice if you watch that time down there, as the National Hurricane Center updates their forecast, that's going to change. All right, that is an automated estimate based off of the official forecast path. Okay. It could be an hour or two before that. It could be an hour or two after that. But as of right now, we think we're still about 16 hours away from landfall. But the real impacts, some of the stronger impacts will be felt, especially on the western side of Jamaica, starting very soon, within the next couple of hours, more than likely. As soon as we start to see that northern trajectory there on the eye, that's when we've got to start bracing for impact, essentially, in Jamaica. Tammy says, I watched Yalba over the weekend due to severe weather this weekend in the southeast Louisiana. Thanks, Ryan. Thank you, Tammy. Thanks for letting us know. It seems like it's very useful to a lot of you guys. I've been working hard on Yalba. It's pretty much what I've been doing 12 hours a day for the past 3 months. It's been boring weather-wise for the most part. So I've had a lot of time to really try to work with Yalba and turn that into something cool. And, if we take a break tonight, if let's say we're live while these planes are in the air, and whenever they egress away from the storm, we decide we're going to take a nap and maybe come back for live coverage tomorrow, I'll send you guys to Yalbot if you guys want continuous coverage. Honestly, Yalbot's doing a really good job with Melissa. It's also got access to all the cameras and all of the plane data as it comes in. So, yeah, that'll be really cool. Is that an app? No, it's on YouTube. Just search up Yalbot on YouTube. Yalbot may be an app soon, but it's not right now. So, yeah, Melissa is Category 5. It's moving at 5 miles per hour, which is bad news because slower storms dump more rain and sustain winds for longer periods of time. Jamaica's got a really unique geography and topography here. Okay, so it's actually possible that at some points, the winds in the higher terrain are going to be potentially more damaging than the winds right along the coast at landfall. So that's going to, elicit a whole new problem with this storm that we don't normally see with landfalling hurricanes, especially in the United States. And then you've got big valleys as well. So there's some areas in Jamaica that resemble the mountains of North Carolina as far as like the way that water may be funneled into certain reservoirs. So we all know what 30 inches of rain can do inside of valleys, right? So we're going to have that problem. We're going to have, over 150-mile-per-hour winds as a problem. We're going to have 10 feet plus of storm surge as a problem, all on this one island. And it's honestly kind of unimaginable how bad that's going to be whenever it makes landfall. This is why myself and everybody else in the weather world is taking this so seriously. We've got more words from Andy. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, Ryan, to add on to that, I was sort of listening, but I think you mentioned the valleys, but also in those higher elevations, it's possible that the winds that are measured right above the surface tend to be much stronger, and those are going to ram up against the higher elevations, not necessarily as weak as the winds at the surface. They would be like 15, 20 miles an hour weaker. So I did see a figure from some expert meteorologists on the case in tropical weather that there could be up to a 30% increase in terms of wind gust maximum potential on these slopes, essentially on these hills, and especially if the hurricane were closer to the eastern side of the island, then especially much higher up in those mountains. It looks like it'll be on the western side if we tend to the current track. So even above the surface, we could see gusts, well over 200 miles per hour on those windward slopes. That's a possibility. So another thing to think about in terms of maximum wind potential, even though we will be mostly focusing and hearing about flood related unfortunate circumstances, because floods are the real background threat, even though they
We don't know if
passively build
Woods
up.
is
It's not active like
here
the wind whooshing
or
around. We will tell you again
he's
and again that flooding is the more dangerous
yeah.
case here. So I compiled some questions from chat real quick that I'll go through. How far do the
Well, he's
hurricane
been
force
quiet for the
winds
last few
go from the
minutes, so yeah.
center? The current National Hurricane Center outlook here has about a 0.6 degree longitude diameter for the hurricane force wind, which means that's roughly about 60 miles or so across. So it is actually a pretty concentrated area that is going to experience hurricane force wind speeds upon landfall in Jamaica. And that means that there's a couple things that means. It means that all the folks over in Kingston on the
Oh,
eastern side, if we get the
RV
western
there
end
yet.
landfall and it
It
stays pretty
is
far away from
£6
that
2p
population center,
for me.
are going to experience 50, 60, 70 mile per
£6
hour
2p.
wind gusts with the tropical force storm winds continuously, but they're not necessarily going to see
I
the
might actually
roofs flying
add,
off their houses in real time and all
at
that,
some
right?
point.
So I'm
Like for me,
concerned
it's
about that as like in a social stance
for me
that
it's
they've been exposed to social
7
media
quid
and all of
1
this,
cent.
and they're expecting the
I
worst, and they think it's winds that are the worst, because a lot of you probably think the winds are the worst case here, but they're going to see the winds not be extreme and ripping roofs off, right? And then they're going to be like, well, this wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. And then they might return to places that are lower lying, more exposed to flooding potential. And then that flooding builds up passively, and suddenly they're in a really bad spot. So I really want to tie together this like wind speed maximum. The radius of that is only like 60 miles, and Jamaica is extending over a couple hundred miles, together with the fact that there is the potential that people make some grave errors here by returning after they see the winds aren't so bad in Kingston. So that's one of the questions there. Hopefully that was a good response. Another thing that I see is a lot of people asking, will it landfall in the US? What's the driving factor in its path? And I invite you to talk about that more, Brian. I'll just say basically there is a trough over the eastern US that's been causing actually a couple of tornadoes in the southeast US over the last couple of days here. And that is going to suck Melissa up, and it's a pretty high confidence path. In fact, Bermuda is on the outlook after all of the islands of Jamaica, eastern Cuba, the southeastern Bahamas, and the Turks and Caicos. Even Jamaica has to look, or I'm sorry, even Bermuda has to look out for this. And then it rides right up into the Labrador Sea, where almost all the low pressure systems go to, essentially dissipate. So pretty high confidence there, but Ryan can talk more about that if needed.
Absolutely. Thank you, Andy. That was great. Yeah, so it's about to be, if you're on the eastern side of the United States, it's about to be pretty cold. We're going to have a cold Halloween, especially, the day of and the day before. And that cold front or the trough and the associated weather system there is going to act like a baseball bat. And Hurricane Melissa is the baseball, all right? And it's timed just right. It's not gonna strike out. It's not a foul ball. It's not it's literally going to hit it out of the park and keep it away from the United States. So be thankful for this cold air that we're about to experience. It's actually going to be quite cold in some places, especially in the deep south. It's going to be much below average for our Halloween, and that storm system once again is going to be the reason why we don't really have to worry about this in Florida, the East Coast, definitely not in the Gulf. I mean, this still has the opportunity and the possibility of producing some big time swells that travel hundreds of miles and cause rip currents and some intermittent problems with coastal flooding along the East Coast, but probably not as bad as some of the bigger storms that we had earlier in the season. So definitely the main impacts with this storm are going to be with Jamaica, Cuba, and the Bahamas. So Crooked Island and places like that. Over here in the Bahamas, north of Cuba. This is going to be a pretty impactful storm for you as a Category 2. And then, like Andy said, it does look like it's going to go up towards Bermuda, potentially right over Bermuda as a Category 1 in about 3.5 days from now. And that's crazy, too. We've been watching this thing for, it feels to me like forever in this one little area down here, right? So like day 1, it's right here. Day 2, right here. It's day 3. Now we're talking about 3 or 4 days from now. It's going to be, well over 1,000 miles away. So it's pretty crazy at how fast it's going to be moving. And it's all thanks to that system that's moving in. So some of you guys are asking about the cameras and where you can look at them. I do want to shout out WeatherWise because they're the reason why we've got these cameras. Let me pull that up real quick. So if you guys don't have it, you should get the WeatherWise app. It's free. You can go to weatherwise.app in your browser, or you can just go to your app store and search WeatherWise, and you'll immediately have access to all the tools that I'm using here. Yeah, you can load up the satellite, and then just go over here to the island of Jamaica and click any of these cameras, and you'll be able to pull these up. And you can do this in your phone, on your phone app. You can do this on your desktop browser, whatever you want to do, and you can kind of, follow along like this. So it's the same satellite that I'm using. You can pull that up. And by the way, just an incredible satellite presentation here. Almost perfectly circular eye earlier. Let me actually switch this over to a different band so we can see it as the sun goes down. So yeah, you got access to all this stuff over on WeatherWise. It's a free app that you can go download right now if you want to follow along with our hurricane tracking. So beyond that, I also just retweeted a really, really incredible video. Have you guys ever heard of the stadium effect? So these hurricane hunters, in one of the earlier flights today, there was somebody on board who recorded a video whenever they went into the eye of this storm. And it is the craziest video you'll see today, probably this year. I can't share it on here for copyright reasons, but you can go look at it on Twitter, and it is absolutely crazy. So the hurricane hunters flew into the eye, and you can literally see the entire thing around them. The stadium effect refers to being in the eye of a hurricane and like feeling like you're in a stadium, like the Coliseum, with these giant rows of clouds around you instead of stadium seats and bleachers or whatever. Except that is not radar, that is satellite. Yeah, this is satellite. This is not radar. You can do radar. So like with WeatherWise, it's mostly a radar app. So you can load up the radar near your home if you want to. By the way, we've got some pretty big storms up here in Florida. A couple of severe thunderstorm warnings. Yesterday was a pretty wild day in Florida. We had a flash flood emergency, a couple tornado warnings in Florida. But today we did have a severe thunderstorm warning. Right now we've got a special weather statement over here around Titusville. There will definitely be more severe thunderstorm warnings as this stuff moves off to the east. Probably flash flood warnings too. That's moving over towards Palm Bay. It's moving away from Orlando. What's Twitter? Oh, my bad. X. All right. So let's go back over here and let's see where we are with our planes. They're getting closer, slowly but surely. They're getting closer. This one over here is still moving. The largest wind it's recorded is 26 miles per hour. It's about 15,000 feet off the ground as it goes towards the storm. It'll be a couple hours before that one gets there. This one, however, NOAA 2 is getting really close. It's right here on the outside of the storm. So it's going to line itself up and try to go right through the eye. Now, sometimes they'll miss. But with this one, they probably won't because it's not moving very fast. So it'll be easy to line that up. Caravan. Let's see here. What did Caravan say? It says, you saved my family in Port St. Lucie during Hurricane Milton. Ever since I've been into weather. Thanks for what you do. Caravan, thanks for that kind message. Milton was crazy. And there was a lot of people watching and like we just released a video, by the way, on the Y'all Squad channel, if you guys haven't seen it, about Milton and the recovery stuff that the Y'all Squad did there. So if you want to check that out, I would go check it out. But I'm glad you came out all right. And seriously, thank you for the kind words, Caravan. And Bobo, oh, my bad, Bon, says, love you, buddy. Thanks for everything. Nashville loves you. Hey, here's the good news. I know we got people in Tennessee that are watching. Hurricane Melissa will not hit Clarksville, Tennessee. Just to clear that up, just to make sure that I mentioned that before we get too deep into the weeds here. Yeah, I don't know where I got Bobo. That's what I saw. But it's Bon. Yeah, definitely not going to hit Clarksville. Yeah, so we're getting close to getting some juicy information out of this plane over here, but it's still going to be a little while. Like honestly, it's right when they pass through the center. That's what we're most interested in, I guess you could say. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey Ryan, until that happens, I will fill the space with some more of chat's questions here that I can answer. If you guys have been paying attention to media at all, you may have seen a lot of questions or actually just posts in general, even for me, about the driest eye ever recorded. And it's true. This hurricane has the driest eye that has ever been recorded with like modern satellites, modern geostationary satellites in particular. And what that means is simply how the satellite is collecting black body radiation temperature, which is a brightness temperature, looking at infrared wavelengths here. So it's not quite the same as the temperature you feel on your skin outside, but what it does let us know is, how many clouds essentially are in the center of that eye. Is it going all the way to the surface when it's collecting, this temperature data? And if it can get all the way through down there and there's less clouds that are down there and the sort of resolution that it can make out, which is not very. It's kind of like a mile wide resolution. So you can think about all those clouds that are kind of sifting around in that eye. It does have to be pretty dang dry and far fewer clouds to be the driest hurricane on record on across the entire globe. And that was achieved today, actually multiple times. It's broken its own record a few times since then, since breaking the record set back in 2016 in the Western Pacific. So what that means is that you're sampling the driest eye. That tells us that there is actually the most strongest sinking action in the eye itself, and that's clearing out all those clouds. So when we have that, we get the driest eye on record, and that's essentially what that means. It tells us that this is a stronger hurricane. You have stronger sinking motion, which means the eye wall around it is probably rising much faster as well, and that air is just moving faster all around, which tells us the pressure is lower as well, and yada yada. So that's another measure of hurricane strength we can use. And sure enough, yeah, I mean, I didn't think I would sit down today and look at a record broken across the entire world, but it did happen. So there's that.
Awesome. Thank you, meteorologist Andy Hill. Lots of records will likely be challenged or broken. One interesting thing that I pointed out in our video earlier today, I don't know if you guys have watched it yet or not, but 80% of the hurricanes this year in 2025 have been Category 4 or Category 5, and that usually doesn't happen. Most hurricanes are usually not Category 4s or Category 5s. This year, most of them have been. And 80% is definitely the most on record. So that's another interesting thing here. But that's just one of the many things that we'll add on to the list of things we remember about this storm as we continue to watch it. It does look like, notice how the eye definitely looks like it's moving a little bit in the last couple of frames. I'm playing 100 frames here on WeatherWise. You can see that you've got this perfectly circular eye, and then maybe over the past hour or so, it actually starts to become a little bit less misshapen, or a little bit more misshapen, and you start to see these storms firing around the actual eye wall. We've got convective bursts happening, which might cause things to be a little unstable here for a little while. But here's the thing. This thing is still floating very far away from the island of Jamaica. And as long as this disc here is not mostly over the island, there's not going to be enough friction to really lead to any sort of de-intensification or anything. So if this goes through another eye wall replacement cycle or something like that, in fact, if that happens right now and not 10 hours from now, that's actually not a good thing, because that means it could get back to this steady state here before it actually goes up and makes landfall. So there's a lot of little things like that we'll be paying attention to, as well as we analyze every frame of the storm. But yeah, you can see right there in the last couple of frames, some big time thunderstorms are exploding around the eye. But still, I don't see any sign of this thing going north. In fact, it looks like it's going southwest to me at this point. So that's another thing. We're just going to be constantly waiting to see when is that northern track going to start taking place. All right, let's see where we are with the plane. We are getting closer. We've got 32 mile per hour winds now. Maximum winds being recorded off of this plane over here. That's AF 301, and maximum winds are still pretty low with this one, but it's about to get in there. It wouldn't be surprising. I mean, it wouldn't be surprising to me if we actually saw a higher central pressure on this first pass, but we'll see. That's what we're here. That's why we're here. Is we're trying to see what's going on. There's only so much that the satellite can tell us. Jason says, I was just about to say, what about Clarksville? We're good. We're good in Clarksville. And pretty much everywhere in the United States. Once again, we're not going to feel any impacts from this unless you're literally on the coasts and you were planning on going surfing. Outside of the cold, like, once again, this is all a part of the same mechanism. You know, it's all connected here. But I wouldn't say the reason it's cold is because of this hurricane, but the reason the hurricane is not going to be going towards the United States has a lot to do with why it's cold in the eastern United States, where it's going to be cold over the next few days. Is it still intensifying? That's why we're live right now. Everybody in the world that cares about this stuff is on the edge of their seats right now. Because if it is, that's pretty crazy. I mean, storms in this part of the world don't typically get as strong as this one is right now. And if it continues to intensify, even more records are on the table to be broken. But we don't really know. We can't really tell just from looking at satellite. There's little cues. There's little things that we can look at to kind of gauge. But like, we're really dependent on these planes and the instrumentation that they drop into the storm and the data that we get back from that. So that's why we're live. We're waiting on these planes to tell us what's going on really inside of that storm. And also, one of these planes, or both of them, they've got like a tail Doppler radar system and all kinds of different sensors and stuff. And all that stuff gets jammed into the models, right? So if there is some sort of change in this thing's path that's not being forecast right now, maybe that'll be picked up on with this pass of the hurricane hunters here. Very, very important stuff. So glad you went live. Me too. I'm happy to be live. Like, I really enjoy live streaming. I hate the fact that, like, normally the only reason we go live is for really bad reasons. We're trying to figure out, like, maybe one day there's a day where I go live more often, even when it's not plumb wild, even when there's not crazy stuff going on. Maybe the main format of the channel becomes a live stream. I personally would love that. But yeah, we're not quite there yet. Yeah, go live 4 hours every day. Cut up a video out of that live stream. I mean, that sounds like fun to me. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Ryan, lots of questions about the westward motion from yourself included. I'll try to shine some light on a little bit of some of what could be a contributing factor to that. The first thing we can talk about that exists in basically every major hurricane is if you just get rid of all of the winds in the atmosphere, there's just no flow at all. You just put the hurricane there and you plop it down in a vacuum, right? What will steer it? It will actually go west-northwest on its own due to something called the beta effect. And essentially, to explain that, you have the low pressure center, right? But on the outside, the periphery of the hurricane, there are lows and high pressures that set up in the corners, essentially. And that happens because the Earth spins faster. If you're standing in a spot, you'll complete a rotation faster if you're closer to the pole than closer to the equator. So across the poleward, equatorward expansion of the hurricane, just how many degrees latitude is it? Tall or wide, or however you want to think about it, right? There's going to be a difference in force there. And what that does is it creates those little low pressures and high pressures in the periphery. So if you just get rid of all the flow, everything that's steering the hurricane right now, and you just put those low pressures and high pressures on the periphery of it, it'll move west-northwest. So what we know right now is that all of the wind affecting Hurricane Melissa is actually pretty weak. That's why another reason it's been allowed to do this, essentially, just explode rapidly. Intensify and all that. And thus, the beta effect can have a really real effect, even in the short term here, on its movement until it gets picked up by that trough. It feels the influence of the trough and goes to the north. So that's kind of what we're seeing right now. Another thing that could explain it is also like very short term. We see those convective bursts wrap around the eye like that, and the eye could literally just be tugged toward where the most intense convection is because air will flow in that direction. So pretty powerful result of what that convection is doing literally in every 5 minutes when we see an update, right? So those are kind of my stabs at explaining why it's moving west, but we do, of course, all anticipate that northward progression, and we'll see where exactly it ends up making landfall.
Awesome. Thank you very much, meteorologist Andy Hill, for the explanation. And there's a lot of people in the chat that are literally like What if it doesn't turn north, or like it's not going to turn north? Well, here's the thing, it is. And any sort of difference that, happens here is not going to be like incredible. Like I know there's people in the chat right now, they're like, oh my God, I'm in Texas. This is going to keep moving west until it gets to Texas. And that's not the case. Okay. If this does move a little bit farther west than what we thought, it's going to be a little bit farther west. This is still a Jamaican problem. All right. For the most part. The westward shift might mean that the eastern side of Jamaica fares a little bit better. It obviously would mean that some different parts of the western side of the island would fare a little bit worse. That's the kind of differences that we're talking about here. Okay, we're not talking about major, you know what, guys, oh my gosh, it's just going to keep going west in Florida, get ready. That's not what's happening here. Yeah, exactly. California, safe from the storm. Are you still predicting? Yeah, so it's definitely possible that many areas on the island get more than 20 inches of rain. And there are several forecast discussions that mention up to 40 inches of rain. There are models that, show 40 inches of rain. The vast majority of them show a widespread 20, but 40 is not out of the question, especially if it keeps moving really slow. How long will you be live today? Honestly, it depends on you guys. If as long as you guys are finding this useful, and as long as we've got information to share, we'll stay live. Right now, the main thing that we're doing is we're answering questions. Right? We're trying to relay alerts and information as that comes out, and we're trying to keep you updated on these planes. And oh, look, this one's getting closer. The heading on this is wrong. So whenever we lose our, we've got like a real-time flight API from like Flight Radar. Whenever they get inside of the storm, we sometimes lose that. So we'll lose the heading. The plane's not going this way. It's still going this way. But we've now gotten already a 997 millibar reading from this plane on the outside of the storm. So now every time we get an update, we're going to see lower pressure and higher winds. Lower pressure, higher winds, all the way up until it gets to the center. All right. And then at some point, it'll start going back down. And then they'll turn around and they'll come back in. They'll try to make at least 3 or 4 passes through the eye here. So right there, you can see 997 millibar. That's the lowest pressure that we've gotten from this plane so far. This other plane is still too far out to really worry about. So we've got AF 301 over here. Let me zoom out to give you context. Can you guys see that? Let me switch the satellite sector here so you can see the lines a little bit better. So the center, the hurricane's right here. This is plane 1. This is plane 2. This is what we're calling AF 301. This one's NOAA 2. I think this one, they have nicknames. I think this one's Kermit. I need to add that to the overlay. That's a better way to refer to them as. NOAA 2, AF 301, Kermit. Yeah, I need to add that on here. So we're waiting for an update from old Kermit here. David says, Ryan, you've declared Clarksville safe from the hurricane, but what about Fort Campbell? You guys are good too. Yeah, Kermit. I'm not kidding. And we just got a new special weather statement in Florida. Once again, we're going to have a bunch of warnings and stuff coming out for Florida. We'll check in on that intermittently, but that's not the main purpose of us being here right now. Is there a way to track the planes in the app? So no, I very quickly threw this together for the live stream today. The WeatherWise people are not going to use my slop code in the app that hundreds of thousands of people use. So like, unfortunately, it might be a little bit before we get live reconnaissance data in the WeatherWise app that is like good to use and like won't crash. I'm very lucky. I can implement features for my live stream in like 30 minutes because if it breaks, it only affects me. Yeah, one of them's Miss Peggy. Yeah, Miss Peggy, Kermit. I we need to like put those names on here. But yeah, at some point the flight reconnaissance will be a part of Weatherwise for sure. You guys got to remember it's a new app. It's almost what is it, about 1 year old, and it's already like the best thing ever. And new stuff is coming out all the time. Like it takes a while to implement this stuff on a scale that it can be used by a bunch of people. Like that takes real engineering, you know. All right, so what do you guys think? What do you guys think? Whenever this plane right here goes through the center circulation, what are we going to find? Has the pressure dropped? Is the storm still intensifying? Or do you think it's leveled out? Or do you think maybe it's even increased a little bit? Let me know in chat. So once again, we're trying to beat, I don't even remember, what is the official 906 millibars. So 905 really. If this thing goes through and we get a 904 or a 903 millibar reading, then that means that the storm still has intensified since the last time we got a reading, right? So what do you guys think? Are we even sub 900? That would be crazy. Oh yeah, I need to. Which one of these live cameras is the best right now? I don't think any of them are getting hit by anything. I need to keep one up though. I'll keep this one up just because it's closer to the storm, I guess. Got a lot going on screen here. You think it's went down? 880? No. Definitely not 880. It's definitely possible. The lowest pressure ever recorded in the Atlantic Ocean was 882 millibars with Hurricane Wilma in October of 2005. Lots of parallels between 2005 and 2025. This is our third Category 5 of the year. And in 2025, we had 4 Category 5 storms. So we're right up there with 2005, which is very commonly, referred to, and everybody knows it as the year of the hurricane. You know what I mean? So 2025 will be another year that's remembered, but probably not as much, because another thing about 2005 is, we had Katrina and we had all these. Most of the storms actually had major impacts to land. Most of our storms this year haven't. This is going to be the first one that is really impactful to land here. So it seems like most of y'all think that it's going to drop. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I'm going to say that it's completely leveled out, because it has dropped and then started to come back up here in the past couple of frames, just based off of satellite imagery, or it might even be a little bit higher than the last reading. That's good. That's my guess. Plane's currently at an altitude of 8,000 feet. It'll probably cross through the eye at around that altitude. Oh, okay, here we go. It's closer. You guys see it now? It's right on the edge here. So we just got a wind reading of 78 miles per hour and pressure of 991 millibars. So once again, it's going to keep going right here. It's going to go through the eye. And honestly, we probably won't get as high of winds on this side of the storm, but definitely still something over 150 miles per hour is what the next reading will likely show. And then also, we don't know if we'll get a proper reading on the actual eye here either. That's why they make multiple passes. On one pass, they might go through the eye wall. On one pass, they might go right through the center of the eye. On another pass, they might go through the northern side of the eye wall. You know, it's not, there's a bunch of different angles that they're going to try to hit here. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, Ryan, something else that impressed me earlier today, I'm not sure if you talked about this yet, but there was that mission that actually had to turn back around briefly before they reattempted the eye wall, or maybe even a different plane ended up attempting the eye wall, and that one just didn't go in because of the G-force experienced. And I find it, and that was actually like unsafe limits for the crew on board of that plane. I find it so interesting that it just so happens that the intersectionality of that, our peak hurricane strength that we can even possibly have over the best, pristine sea surface temperatures and conditions for a hurricane to intensify coincides with our modern technology of aircraft, just barely enough G-force, right, for it to be unsafe enough to fly through and collect data. So that is possibility. We see right now that really intense convection wrapping around the eye of the hurricane, and the latest burst that started at 33 minutes ago wrapped around halfway around the eye in 26 minutes. So to complete a revolution in 52 minutes, less than an hour, that's how fast it's kind of swirling around there. And that's not even right on the edge of the eye wall there. That's like kind of back just a little bit and just swirling around. So if they do end up having to turn around at all, that would be the reason why. So let's not get disappointed at that, right? Let's just, respect their decisions and their assessing of their own safety as well, and hope that it all goes smoothly, because again, they're right approaching that limit of dangerous G-forces when they're trying to enter the eye wall, especially with that rigorous convection circling around it. So hopefully they're all good.
Absolutely. Yep. And it's probably should be expected that at one of these missions here, at some point, it might have to turn around. I mean, these guys do this all the time. The hurricane hunters, this is what they do. But storms of this magnitude are not common. Most of the time, they're flying through winds half as strong. They're flying through storms half as strong. They're flying through, just half of what this is. You know what I'm saying? So this is something that they're going to have to prioritize their safety for and everything like that. Let me show you the camera here again. I just have to correct myself, because when I first started the stream, I very wrongly said that you couldn't tell a hurricane was coming looking at these cameras in Jamaica, but it is a ghost town out there. All of these cameras, everybody's off the streets. I really hope that people are taking this seriously, and they should. Like, once again, we don't know exactly how bad this is going to be whenever this makes landfall, because we haven't seen, the development of Jamaica has exploded since the last time a storm even close to this strong hit. So we don't know how the infrastructure will handle it, and we also don't know. A lot of places, if you've been hit by a hurricane 3 times over the past 30 years, you kind of know, like, okay, 10 feet of storm surge, it sends the water up to this level, or like this house definitely gets it whenever it's 5 feet. This house doesn't get it until it's up to 10 feet. You know what I'm saying? I don't think that the local communities and stuff have that kind of knowledge, just simply because we haven't had to deal with it down here at this level for quite some time. So that's one of the reasons why we're so concerned about Jamaica. But we've got all these cameras. I don't know how long they'll be online. I mean, like, I don't know what their setup looks like. I don't know if, like, as soon as power goes out, we're going to lose these cameras. I don't know if they've got Starlink backup or anything like that, but we're going to keep them up as long as we possibly can. I do imagine that the vast majority of the island of Jamaica will be without power for an extended period of time, starting sometime soon, maybe. So just a heads up, we might not have the cameras for the duration of this. All right, so I think we got another update from our plane. What's happening now is the data comes in like a long string of text that has to be parsed into stuff that, we can read easily on the screen, and then that'll pop up for us. The suspense is real. Once again, you lock your decision in now. Do you think the central pressure has gone down, stayed the same, or went up? Also, maximum winds, 175 miles per hour is what we're dealing with right now. Do you think the winds are stronger than that right now? Yeah, I don't know how we would do that in a poll. Actually, yeah, just do um, stronger, weaker, or maintained in a poll. We'll see how good we are as a collective meteorological hive mind. If we get this right, we're going to have to stay live for every storm and put all of your all's answers into like a model and like actually use that as real guidance. What's the question? Will the hurricane hunters find that Hurricane Melissa has gotten stronger, gotten weaker, maintained? Something like that. Yeah, so there should be a poll that appears in chat at some point. All right, so while we wait on that data to come in, there's a camera I want to show you real quick. This flat bridge. We've got access to this. If you've been watching Y'allbot's been talking about this a bunch. This is the historic flat bridge, considered a very significant historical site here. It's one of the island's oldest bridges. It was built in 1724. This thing's been there since 1724. And now we're going to be watching this as a historic hurricane makes landfall on the island. There's folklore about a mermaid-like creature named River Mama who lives in the waters below the bridge. So we'll be watching out for River Mama too, as the waters will inevitably start coming up here. It was built flat to hopefully allow floodwaters to flow over it. Interesting. The water does look like it's rising a little bit. I've been watching that all day. All right, within the next couple of seconds here, we're going to have our new data, so make sure you lock in your vote. Daggone it, I can't see the poll. So I'm not going to spoil it. I'll let it appear on the screen here, but I've got like access to the behind the scenes, and the data's already in, so I already know the answer. I know what it's found. By the way, there's another plane that's going to come in right after that too. So, and the way this works is we'll get several passes. Once again, if you're just now tuning in, I want to make sure everybody understands what we're doing here. We're watching this plane sample the storm. What color? I need to use a better color here. We're watching this plane sample the storm. Okay, it's recording the wind speeds and the surface pressure, and whatever it sends back here. That's going to be pass one, and then it's going to turn around and it's going to try to go through again. And sometimes it won't go directly through the center of the eye. Sometimes it'll miss, or sometimes maybe the reading isn't great. So it takes several passes, and we'll see what the next one looks like. But also, we're going to have another plane coming in here that's going to add another source to that as well. So we're going to know what's going on with this storm. No doubt about it. Yeah, my guess was that the surface pressure has increased, and I really didn't make any guesses about the wind. But the reason I think the surface pressure might have increased a little bit is because you can kind of see that the eye doesn't look as healthy, I guess, as it once did. Don't get me wrong, it's still an insane storm. There's nothing wrong with it here. It's still Category 5, no doubt. But it looks like it's going through a little bit of a wobble, a little bit of a thing here. The eye is definitely not as circular here. So if you're looking at a hurricane and you're trying to determine how strong it is just by looking at the satellite imagery, this is definitely a strong hurricane. But notice how if I turn this back a little bit, that's pretty much a perfect circle right there. A perfectly circular eye is typically going to be associated with a stronger cyclone. And then especially, I mean, look at how stable it was for several hours. And then just over the past little bit, it's kind of whoop. But, along with those wobbles have come stronger thunderstorms that have formed on the outside of the storm here. So those will organize, and this thing will rebalance itself. And after that, it might actually be stronger than it was before. This is a part of every hurricane. Like, this happens with every hurricane, no matter how strong or how weak they are. They will be steady state for a while, and then they'll go through a replacement cycle or some sort of wobble and kind of rebalance themselves. All right, so the data's in. You can see that the plane did go directly through the eye. Let me pause the satellite playback here. I'll zoom in here. You can see that the plane went directly through the center of the eye. The reading came from right here. The plane is currently on the other side of the eye. Winds, they recorded 140 mile per hour winds and a pressure of 910 millibars. So on that pass, according to this, drop sonde here, we actually did see the pressure increase. The winds definitely are less than what we got on the last one, but we'll see a big bunch of variance with the winds, depending on which side of the storm they enter on and all that stuff. We're going to see different wind speeds. But what's really interesting to me, and what's interesting to anybody that's kind of analyzing this, is that the minimum pressure increased It's gone from 905 to 910 from the last time we had a plane in here. And that means that the low pressure system is a little bit weaker than it was. Does that mean that the storm is weaker? Does that mean that this is not, that anything has changed really? No. More than likely, this is just a natural phase and a natural cycle of the storm. And what's actually is unfortunate is a lot of times, because these, kind of fluctuations are inevitable, a lot of times we root for them and we hope that they happen right as landfall occurs, right? So the fact that it's happening out here right now,
It's just so bad I can't even
it's
hear
probably going to
ATC.
get organized over the next 6 hours or so. That means that it might be back in the steady state where it's really strong as it makes landfall in Jamaica. So it's actually a bad thing that that's happening right now in terms of like how strong it could possibly be as it approaches Jamaica. So that's plane number 1. That's Kermit with 140 mile per hour winds and 910 millibars minimum pressure. It just recorded there. Once again, it's now outside of the storm. It's going to turn around. It's going to make another pass. We also have another plane that's getting closer out here. I don't know if this one's Miss Peggy, but we're going to say that it is.
Right.
Miss Piggy over here is going to also
So
go
I
in
can't
there,
say
and
cuss
I don't know if they're going to be like in there at the same time or what, but like that's going to be really interesting. We might have tons of updates coming in rapid succession within the next little bit. So the next time, and also storms change very quickly. So the next time that this plane goes through, the pressure might have dropped a little bit. We might be back to 905. We might see winds of 180 miles per hour on the other side of the storm, which is actually what I think. I think we will see stronger winds on the other side of the storm that it's about to go through again. And the other plane might. So this is going to be taking place over the next several hours.
This fan feels so good. Can someone
I got
give
a
me
hurricane.
Ryan, you should go fly through this in Microsoft Flight Simulator.
Yeah, I'm just here.
I don't think that would be very interesting. It would just be all you'd see in the simulator is just water. I need to go in the actual plane.
I'm watching his live right
if
now.
somebody invited me on board the Hurricane Hunter plane, I would 100% go. I love flying.
Oh yeah,
I know.
like
our friend
these
Matthew Capucci
kind
got
of.
to do that.
Is this real or?
Go ahead, Andy.
Hey Ryan, make sure you take me with you.
Yeah.
Anyways, I wanted to say that since we have the satellite paused, if we go back to playing that in motion, we'll see that the last few frames that came through actually have it moving due south, even starting a little bit of that eastward trend. So there you go. There's the definition of a wobble, you guys like to call it. Or
holy crap!
Perspective, as I shared earlier,
He changed his setup so much I can't
tugging it a little bit west northwest.
handle it.
Not much wind blowing it around, steering it, and also those deep, vigorous convective bursts, those really tall cumulonimbus clouds that circle around rapidly, will also act to tug
you
it.
should see my
And,
bed right
now
now.
we've seen
I said I made a
the result of
potato
that
bed.
last burst
You
that
should
circled around
see it.
basically entirely. Now it's
What kind of
tugging it,
sep are you
more to the
talking
south,
about?
and maybe even we'll start tugging it east even, and then we might see that transition to the northward movement as it starts to really feel the effects of that trough pulling it north. The influence of it.
Thanks.
No, I just joined
I
in.
just wanted to comment on that last wobble south. Not what you guys were expecting, huh?
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
My brain is
definitely
not
gonna
functioning.
make a
No,
forecast
do you
model
want
out
to
of our
see
chat.
the potato bed?
The results of the poll were only 12% of y'all
Look at Discord.
thought that the storm was going to be weaker. There's 62%.
Look at
thought
this
it was going to see
for
a
a
higher
second.
or a lower
Here's the potato
central
bed.
low pressure.
It's late.
So we'll get better.
Just
It's been
a
a while
seat.
since we've done a
I
hurricane live
just
stream.
realized
So
I'm getting a new
we'll get
radio
better.
on Friday. It's coming on
We'll learn.
Friday. You probably know what it
Norma
is.
dog.
as a collective chat how to forecast these things better.
My dog's
But yeah, definitely, it's very obvious here on the WeatherWise app. If you play the last 15 frames, we've got a major
Volume
wobble.
sus
We are
sometimes.
weeble wobbling like crazy here. The eye is actually not even a circle really on that last frame. So this is another very interesting development that we'll have to monitor over the next little bit to see what happens next. And this stuff changes very fast, right? So within the next couple of hours, we might discover that it's stable itself out again, and
Cameron,
it's
can you
stronger than
stop
ever before, and that's
rejoining
why
and
it's
rejoining?
actually really fortunate that
Because
we
it's
have the
driving
planes in
my
the air right now.
eardrums
A lot of
nuts.
times during these critical moments,
And if you hear a
you know,
fan
there's just
in
not
the
a plane out there.
background,
They
it's
can only
my
be up for
fan.
like 6 hours,
How
and
do
then,
you
you know,
expect
another
me
crew's
to
got to get out there. It takes them 4 hours to
without a
get
fan?
from base to the storm, and sometimes the most critical moments are missed. It looks like everything's going to be recorded tonight during this part of the storm here.
You're gonna see my face. So I actually
All right, so our plane is well outside
Okay,
of the eye of the storm now,
Jefferson,
and at some point we'll see
I
it turn
took a
around.
break
And our
from
heading's
weather
back, by the way. You notice how
because
whenever it's not in this part of the
as
storm,
you-
we've
if
got
you saw
live
my
updating
Twitter page,
positions from Flight Radar.
I was focusing on my health. I'm still am. But during the winter
Yeah, the plane's moving
season
at
is when
about
I
300
come
miles per
in.
hour there at 8,000 feet.
It's my type of weather.
You like winter storms and stuff?
We should already be talking about winter weather.
Yeah, it's coming up.
There's
Yeah, but
already
I
And yeah, the
winter
winds
warning.
were actually 160. So what we showed was in knots. It was 140 knots, 160 miles per hour. Still less than the 175 that we saw in a previous mission,
Oh, out here in
but
Kentucky.
more than 140.
Do you guys want to see an avocado?
Justin, thank you so much for the very generous super chat. Will the Y'all Squad be sent out to Jamaica? That is a good question, and that's something that we don't know yet. We don't know exactly what the island will need. We don't know exactly how that works. We've got the Y'all Squad. We've got the response down to a science with emergency managers in the United States. We've figured that out. This will be a new challenge for us if we decide to do something down here, which of course is something that we might do. But I don't have any information for you right now. That's why we're not doing like a big push to fundraise at the moment. But if something changes, if we figure something out, we definitely will, and we'll let you know what's going on there. What's the chance it doesn't hit Jamaica? At this point, it's very unlikely that it won't hit Jamaica. Like, I think that it's certainly going to hit Jamaica. What we can hope for, I guess, is that this westward wobbles enough to where it goes much farther west and hits the part of the island maybe that's less populated and leaves places over there around Kingston in a little bit less trouble. But at this point, it's already too close to say that it's going to miss or cause less problems than what we originally thought. Jamaica is going to get hit hard by this storm. All right, we will pull up our camera here while we wait for the plane to turn around. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Ryan, I just wanted to talk about something I actually haven't really seen covered whatsoever today by anybody, is every hurricane, virtually every single hurricane. So Cat 1, Cat 5, it doesn't matter. As long as it's a hurricane status, has tornadoes associated with it in those outer bands, specifically the ones that are in the front right quadrant relative to how it's moving. So in this case, it's going to end up moving north into Jamaica, which means the front right would be to the north and east. You see all those cells right next to Ryan's head there. Those are going to progress into that north and east quadrant. And yeah, we don't have a storm prediction center tornado outlook in Jamaica, right? So we're not even thinking about the tornado risk. But if we get those supercells that come on shore anywhere onto Jamaica there, definitely on the east side especially could be a problem. and possibly all the way even over to western parts of Haiti and Hispaniola. That is a problem. There can be definitely waterspouts that could even be strong that come on shore, make landfall, become tornadoes, do some damage in that way. And we're not thinking about that because there is no Storm Prediction Center tornado outlook. So I just wanted to say that. And it is, published research that basically every single hurricane will have waterspouts. Pretty much they're always waterspouts, right? Unless they make landfall, they become tornadoes. They have those associated with them. So we need to be thinking about the severe criteria of those outer bands as well, because we'll all be focused in on where that eye is and where it's making landfall and all the flooding impacts and all of this, right? But there still are even more dangers to think about that we should be cognizant of, just in case, because it does slightly change, the correct way to react and to shelter in the cases of dealing with the flood and a tornado possibility at the same time, or the high winds to the west. So lots of different things to know, but also just being aware of it in general, even if you don't know exactly what to do in those circumstances, is helpful. So I wanted to relay that tornado risk, tornado threat, as it does exist with the hurricane.
All right. Thank you so much, meteorologist Andy Hill. Tornado risk is always something that we've got to think about. But like Andy said, we don't have the SPC. We don't really even have a good. We don't have radar in Jamaica or anything or anywhere down here that we can pull up reliably. There is a meteorological society. There's some sort of institute in Jamaica that has radar, but I've noticed that it's in and out a lot, and we certainly don't have access to it in our data set. It's kind of just like a GIF on a website. But yeah, that's an interesting thing there. Another interesting thing is our plane has officially started turning. I think it's going to go this way and come back in this way. So that's we'll pay attention to that as the storm continues to grow. And also, for anybody that's just now tuning in, let me give you the rundown on Hurricane Melissa. All right, because we are getting more viewers in here. And a reminder, please help us reach more people. If you know anybody that lives down here, or if you know somebody that knows somebody that lives down here and would just like to hear the information that we're giving out. And when I say down here, I'm talking about Jamaica, I'm talking about Cuba, I'm talking about the Bahamas even. Feel free to share our stream out there on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube. It's the only way that we have to promote what we're doing here. So also like the stream here on YouTube, and that'll hopefully get us in the algorithm to where we're getting in front of people who need this information. All right, so we've got a Category 5 hurricane, Melissa, currently south of Jamaica, producing 175 mile per hour winds. If you look below me, this is a live countdown of when we think landfall will occur in Jamaica. We're still potentially 15 hours away from landfall, even though the storm's very close. And that lag is because the storm is moving so slow. And the slow movement of that storm is going to lead to torrential rainfall that will accumulate between 500 and 1,000 millimeters. That's 20 to 40 inches of rain. And that will cause catastrophic flooding just from rainfall in Jamaica. Now, inside the eye wall of this storm, at times we're going to have 200 mile per hour wind gusts, which is going to push a wall of water, a storm surge of more than 10 feet, up onto the southern side of Jamaica. So you're going to have a wall of water coming out of the hills and the mountains and the valleys in the form of rainfall. You're going to have a wall of water coming in from the ocean. Terrible flooding. Then we're going to have landfall after all of that, where we're going to have destructive winds capable of leveling homes, downing power lines, and causing widespread infrastructure damage. With long-term power outages and community isolation likely right after that. All this is going to happen over the next 15 to 20 hours. And the reason we're live right now is we're trying to gauge exactly how bad it's going to be. We already know it's going to be really bad. But if this thing keeps intensifying, if it keeps getting stronger, it could be even worse than what we're thinking right now. The good news is the latest pass of our hurricane hunters here through the eye of the storm did discover that the storm is currently a little bit weaker than it was a couple hours ago. So I guess you could say that's good news, but we just talked for an extended period of time about how that also is kind of bad news because it's inevitably going to try to strengthen again, and maybe now that's going to happen on its final approach to Jamaica. The current weakening that's happening, the wobbling, the replacement cycle that's going on, we were kind of hoping that would happen right as it was making landfall because that would lessen some of the impacts, but it's happening now. So, yeah, that's what's going on for Jamaica. We're really concerned. We're waiting on that northerly turn. This thing is still going west or pretty much due south currently, which is crazy. But at some point, this is going to start going north up towards Jamaica, and that's when we're really going to lock in talking about, when certain aspects of the storm are going to start taking place. Outside of Jamaica, let me turn on the path here. Outside of Jamaica, we're also concerned about Cuba, Haiti, and the Dominican Republic. There's a tropical storm warning right now, and even up to 30 inches of rain is going to be possible in western portions of Haiti. So west of Port-au-Prince. 20 inches of rain is going to be possible in southern portions of southeast Cuba. But by the time it gets up there to Cuba, it's really going to start moving a lot faster, and it's probably going to be moving very quickly by the time it gets to the Bahamas. But Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, hurricane watches are in effect right now, and we expect impacts by midweek. And that I do think that the main thing that we're going to have to worry about up in the Bahamas is the winds. We're going to have a Category 2 hurricane come through. The rain's not going to be nearly as much of a problem up there as the winds are going to be. So over 100-mile-per-hour winds for an extended period of time. And then this thing's going to rocket up to Bermuda, where it could hit Bermuda as a Category 1. So that's where we are right now. This is the current stats, latest from the National Hurricane Center, 173 mile-per-hour winds. Wind gusts of 213 miles per hour. And our second plane here, Miss Piggy, my bad. Why do I keep saying Miss Peggy? Is getting closer. It just recorded a 50-mile-per-hour wind gust. And this is wrong. It says that it found a pressure of 696 millibars out here. Nah, that's not right. It'll get a more accurate reading once it's below 1,000 as it gets closer. Yeah, 213 mile-per-hour wind gusts. It's crazy. Yeah, in Jamaica, there are these things called 881 emergency shelters, and apparently they're all opened and free. This thing formed just north of Venezuela. And it's our first big storm of the I think it's our first storm of the year to enter the Caribbean. And here it is, a Category 5 monster about to hit Jamaica. I saw earlier most of the shelters are empty. Yeah, I've been hearing like conflicting reports about how the public is receiving the warnings in Jamaica. I honestly, I don't know exactly what's going on the ground out there, but hopefully people are taking it seriously. Because this is the definition of a serious storm. All right, I'm going to pull that camera back up for us. Still not a lot going on the western side of the island, that's probably going to change here pretty soon. And this is what it looks like in Kingston right now. Yeah, October is not too weird. A lot of our strongest storms happen in October. It feels late, but it's really not. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think the latest in the season a storm has ever reached Category 5 was like, it's like one of those storms that is not of like modern times. It's the Cuba hurricane or something like that in 1932. And that was in November, early November, that storm reached Category 5 status. So like it can happen all the way into November. October, a lot of them are in September, and that's when people are usually expecting them. October feels late, but it happens. November is actually really late. So yeah. How are people still there? Well, not everybody has the option to just get up and leave. It's an island, But what's surprising to me is there's a lot of movement. All right, so there's people out here walking around. There's people driving around. Hopefully they're making their final preparations and getting ready to hunker down. The rain's not too bad there. A little bit more rain here. But the winds should start picking up on this one here soon. Look at here. We're hours away from an incredibly strong hurricane, and we've got people just walking, taking a stroll. Hey, there's nothing you can do about it. It's crazy to see. What does 30 to 40 inches of rain look like on the ground? Just look up the disaster that just happened in North Carolina. That was about 30 inches of rain. Storm surge for Jamaica. Yeah, we're expecting 9 to 13 feet of storm surge on the southern side, likely right in the middle there. It's even though the storm might be moving a little bit farther west than what we originally thought, it's still going to be a pretty bad storm surge situation in Jamaica or in Kingston because this will push a lot of water up even far displaced from the strongest winds. It's not going to be as bad on the eastern side of the island as it is the western side, but it'll be bad on the entire southern side of Jamaica. Any update on the pressure yet? No. Our planes are still not in there. This one's getting closer. Miss Piggy's getting closer. I would say it's, about maybe an hour away. And then this one's still turning around here. Kermit. Good old Kermit. I'm still shook that planes fly into hurricanes. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. And there's no trick to it. They're not flying above them. They're not, like they're actually flying through like the worst part of the hurricane. And it's not like it is a special plane. Don't get me wrong. You can't just take your Cessna into a Category 5 hurricane. But it's not such a special plane to where like they're having a field day. Like it's tough. Like they're getting rocked around. They're getting shot up 100 feet, and then the wind's moving them down. Like it's a very intense flight. It's very dangerous. But yeah, it is crazy that they do that. But thank goodness for crazy people. I say that all the time. Storm chasers, a lot of times they're crazy, but we love them to death. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, it looks like Miss Piggy's going to come through like this. And I thought we got an update on this plane's location and it was going this way, but I actually don't know if it's going to go this way or this way. My guess is that it's going to go this way and then come up through here. Man, is that a typo? Oh my gosh, it is. I'll try to fix it real quick. Okay, so we can actually see now that it has turned around. So this plane is going this way, which is interesting. I mean, because we've got Miss Piggy up here, and now we're going to have Kermit right here, pretty much in the same spot. Maybe they'll go in one right after another. I don't know what's going to happen here, but that's an interesting thing. All right, I got to refresh. Let's see if I fixed it. Boom. There you go. We are 15 hours away from landfall, approximately. And we are just a little bit away from some more passes from our planes here. We'll have more to talk about whenever that happens. Is it still going west? It still looks like it's going pretty much west. South. It's definitely not going north. Whatever is not north, that's which way it's going. It's definitely not going east either. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey Ryan, I've seen a few people talk about the sheer extent of how long it stayed in the same general area, right? You may have heard before that hurricanes in the same area will churn up the waters underneath them and wear themselves out essentially, because when you churn up the waters, you're bringing up cold water, water that is well below the surface that the sun hasn't heated up, right? Well, in this case, the reason why we haven't really seen the intensity drop off despite the persistence in the same area due to a lack of, steering winds, essentially a steering feature, is because there is a deep ocean heat content in this area. And the ocean heat content is something that, NOAA tracks and all of this. And they specifically made this variable so that they could track the depth of warm enough waters for conditions that are conducive for tropical cyclones to form and persist. So not only do we focus on the sea surface temperature right at the surface of it, but we also look at the depth of that warm, sufficiently warm water. And in this case, there's a very deep ocean heat content. There is quite a bit plentiful in the Caribbean. It's one of the deepest amounts in the world, besides the Western Pacific areas over there that we know for some of the strongest storms on Earth as well. So that's kind of why we're seeing that continuous loop-de-loop and very slow movement of Melissa, yet no, decrease in intensity necessarily, no significant one at least, due to upwelling, the churning of water. So that's a look into that, another dimension as to why this is acting the way it is. Pretty interesting stuff.
Absolutely. Very interesting. Another interesting tidbit here that I'm just for people who are just now tuning in and maybe haven't heard us talk about it is just how slow it's been moving on the same point. 2 to 3 miles per hour is the average speed that the storm's been moving over the past day or so, which is slower than a walking pace. So you could just about, if you could walk on water, you could just kind of stroll along in the eye here as the storm has been moving around. Like you could literally just keep up with it on foot, which is pretty crazy. And that's not going to be the case as the storm gets closer to land. So you're not actually going to be able to stay in the eye, and try to keep up with it on foot in Jamaica or Cuba. But that is something interesting. Another thing here is just another reminder that while this is an incredibly dangerous storm, as far as the winds go, one of the main things that we're worried about is rainfall. 20 to 40 inches of rain is going to cause catastrophic flooding across Jamaica, Haiti, and potentially even southern and southeastern portions of Cuba. Yep, Miss Biggie has turned southwest. So you can see here, it's going in now. It's going to go straight in this way. It's going to try not to miss like I just did. Actually, it might have to do that. It might have to account for this southerly wobble and aim south. But it's going to go in this way. Kermit is still going this way. I still don't know if it's going to go in behind Miss Piggy or if it's going to keep going up this way and then go down. We'll just have to watch. We'll have to watch and see. I need to make the planes like easier to see. Let me do that real quick. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey, Brian, far enough into this broadcast where we can reiterate a pretty important point. This is one that I made toward the start, but for everyone who's joined now, or all the viewers who have since left to replace with you guys now who are watching and will watch this back, is that most of the population of Jamaica, of course, a lot of it is concentrated around Kingston, which is the capital in the eastern side of the nation. And a lot of people there have been exposed to social media. This is very unique circumstance where these people have had days in advance to absorb all of the doom scrolling and all this stuff that's happening. And everyone there, I guarantee it, almost everyone there is thinking about the worst possible impacts being from the wind. Oh my goodness, they're going to see, roofs flying off of houses next to them and all this stuff. But Kingston might end up being pretty far away, not even in the hurricane force wind field from where this makes landfall on Jamaica tomorrow morning, such that everyone who is exposed to the social media trends and are thinking of the devastating impacts of hurricane winds are going to not necessarily see that in Kingston, and they may end up making some decisions that inadvertently put them in poorer spots that would be, their exposure to flooding. So if they don't see those damaging, 150 mile per hour plus winds or the 200 mile per hour plus gusts in the highlands in the nation, then they're going to be like, well, I can return home. And their home might be, closer to the bay or somewhere that might experience storm surge and or flooding from 20 to 30 plus inches of rainfall. And they're not going to be able to escape that as easily when passive effects build up over time as the rain continues. So I don't know if we can, reach anyone who might be in that predisposition, who would go back once they're like, oh, the winds aren't so bad. But the real thing, time and time again, with every hurricane we study, the flooding is exponentially more impactful, both in terms of life and property. So hopefully we are cognizant of that whenever we're relaying information or talking to someone who is in Jamaica. If you guys know someone in Jamaica, you have connections, and they happen to be in Kingston or the eastern part of the island nation, then we would really want to emphasize that point. Like, we need to teach that flooding is worse, that it's passive and builds up, and suddenly you're in a bad spot when you thought the winds were going to be the real problem. So just wanted to reiterate that. That's something that we should cycle through continuously as we cover the hurricane.
Awesome. Thank you, Andy. I made the planes a little bit bigger, so hopefully you guys can see them better now. And I'm going to make it to where whenever we receive an update on their location, they're going to like pulse. That way you know like if it's actually moved from the last time you looked at it. Yeah, shout out to Andy. Meteorologist Andy Hill is here. Remember, ask good questions in the chat, and he's going to answer them too. He's keeping track of questions in the chat. And also, we just crossed 15 hours, so we're now under 15 hours from our estimated landfall time here in Jamaica. So 14 hours, 59 minutes as Hurricane Melissa, Category 5 with 175 mile per hour winds, is currently moving away. It's moving away from Jamaica, but we expect that won't be the case for most of the night tonight. It's going to start moving towards Jamaica, and that's when we're going to have to really start locking in. And people who are just walking around out there are going to have to get in. Look at this. So the rain's definitely picking up here. There is a black outline around the plane, but I think we need to make it more. Need to add more black outline. And then I think we'll be good. But yeah, we currently have 2 planes in the hurricane giving us very, very important data. Go ahead, Andy.
All right. Next question is, do the hurricanes pull up the fish? And I did talk a little bit about that upwelling and the churning of the waters. Melissa is definitely doing that, totally a lot, turning up a lot of that water. But it's all warm down there too, which is why she's maintaining that intensity as she meanders. The fish are definitely being disturbed. They are not being risen into the clouds and raining down. I extremely doubt that. I wholly doubt that. But something biological that does exist in the hurricane is we've had a couple of statements, at least one statement in the past from the hurricane hunters, that birds are in the eye, circling in the eye in the calmer conditions because they can't escape through any part of the eye wall. It would be far too intense for them to fly through. They would just simply lose the ability to fly. So birds are in the eye. This happens with a lot of major hurricanes. I think it happened with Ian, probably happened with Helene, probably definitely happened with Milton, all sorts of examples. So this is yet another birds in the eye hurricane. Not necessarily raining fish, though. I would say that.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Andy. All right. So is this better? Like, I think we can see the planes great now. Like, you definitely not going to miss them. And I'll go ahead and make the flight path line a little bit thicker too, and those max measurements. I'll make that a little bit bigger too. I don't want to cover up too much of the satellite. You know what I mean? That's what we're really here for. But I also want to make that easy to see. I see some people in chat saying that fish aren't real. I didn't know there was a fish aren't real movement along with the birds aren't real movement. That's news. I didn't know that. If you're just now tuning in, you see these two planes. They're not just icons on my map. Those are real planes in the air right now, going into the strongest storm on planet Earth right now, to give us valuable insight as to what's going on in the middle, because we can't actually talk to fish. We can't communicate with them. We don't know what's going on with this hurricane unless we send an airplane in there. And why can't we talk to fish? Maybe it's because they aren't real. So the chatter's got a point. All right, I think I'm gonna have to refresh to see this change. Oh yeah, now that's cool. Every time we get an update, that pulse ring's gonna happen, and you can see now the max wind marker is bigger. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It does cover up the satellite, but I think that if we want to take a look at just the satellite, I'll just pull up WeatherWise, and then we can look at just the satellite. But this will be our plane tracker right here. And by the way, you guys can follow along on the WeatherWise app. There's a link in the description. Go to weatherwise.app in your browser. It's free. You can watch the satellite. You can view these cameras in Jamaica. You can do all that for free right now.
Right.
I think so, yeah. Jared, that sounds good to me. I'm trying to figure out how to get it in my thing here. Okay, here's some incredible video of inside the eye of Hurricane Melissa. This is what we were just talking about. I'm going to let this roll. Is there sound? There's not sound. I'm going to let this roll while I go get myself something to drink. This is real. This is real footage from inside the eye of Hurricane Melissa earlier today. I don't know if you guys know this or not, but that's plumb wild. Okay, so yeah, this is from the moment they come through the clouds. Boom. In the eye. Golly. That's crazy. That is absolutely crazy. That's got to be one of the best videos ever of this effect. I mean, that I have to keep saying like this is real, because it would be easy to say that this is like from some sort of movie, but this is the real deal right here. Unbelievable. So that's what it looks like inside the eye of Melissa as our hurricane hunters get closer here. You can see these two plane icons here. Those so the plane that you just saw in that video, that's one of these planes. It's getting ready to go back into the eye right now. AF 301 or Miss Piggy is going to be the first one in this time. Well, Kermit, NOAA 2 has already went through, recorded 160 mile per hour winds, 910 millibars of low pressure. Now, AF 301 is getting ready to go in. So we've got to do another poll. Is the reading from AF 301 or Miss Piggy going to be lower than? Are we going to find a stronger storm or a weaker storm than Kermit? So do we think the central pressure is going to be lower than 910 on this second pass here from Miss Piggy? Are the winds going to be stronger than 160 miles per hour? Let's vote. Based off of the satellite. And, you know, satellite doesn't do it all. It doesn't cover everything. But based off the satellite, I think that it's going to find a similar pressure, 909 to 912 millibars, and it might find 5 mile per hour stronger winds on the northeastern side of the storm as it enters over there. So 165. 912, 165 is what I'm thinking. What do you guys think? I can't believe we've got two planes getting ready to go in back to back. This is going to be crazy. And yeah, by the way, in the WeatherWise app, you guys can pull up the cameras. I'll keep one up on WeatherWise, and I'll keep a different one up on ours, which I'm using WeatherWise too. Like this, what I'm using here is also WeatherWise, but I'm like decorating it with my own lines of code to add the planes and stuff. Yeah, it's AF 301 is currently 10,000 feet up. It's going about 274 miles per hour. And the next couple of readings are going to be interesting here. We'll get a pretty high wind speed on this next one as we enter the outer part of the storm core there. And then the next reading after that will likely include the center. Do you use OBS for your streams? Yes. Go ahead, Andy.
Hey Ryan, I'm already seeing posts about organizations, whether official or unofficial, preparing to deploy in Jamaica for disaster relief, cleanup, response, etc. Right? And I would just say to all those people who are doing that, and we can't convince you otherwise, or you're set in your ways, or you've received like a large donation to go through with it, right? When you get there, it's going to be miserably hot and humid for a long time, for like the entire duration of the cleanup that would need to happen, if it takes months like Maria did in Puerto Rico. So if they're coming from the States or wherever else and they're not necessarily used to this humidity and on a longer term, or they overwork themselves in the humidity because they don't think it's as bad as it seems to be, uh, that should be something that's taken into consideration for anyone who is responding in any sort of capacity. So just something I want to note, because it'll last for the entire time. It is an island nation in the tropics, so expect to need to prepare for that, especially because with those cleanup capacities, there will be limited water, and that's going to be your most important tool for keeping yourself healthy.
Great stuff. Thank you, Andy. Yeah, it's going to be crazy down there. It's the heat, and then also we have to really think about an island of people are going to be devastated here. We're going to have countless people without power and other utilities for an extended period of time. It is going to be a literal disaster down there. So if anybody's planning to go down, and this goes to anybody on the Y'all Squad that's listening, like we have our meeting soon. All these kinds of things are things we really have to think about as we think about doing this. But thankfully, there are a lot of people and there's a lot of organizations that are going to be down there to help. All right, we just got another location update. Miss Piggy's getting close. And yeah, it looks like they're just going to go in one right after the other here, which will be interesting. How's our poll doing, Frank? Send me a screenshot. I got to be fancy over here with my custom chat app, and it doesn't have polls. So it looks like most of y'all still think that the storm's going to be stronger. 58% of y'all say it's going to be stronger. Yeah, we'll go ahead and end that poll. We'll lock it in because pretty soon here we're going to get an update with the results. Planes are getting close, and what's crazy is we're still getting real-time position updates, even though Miss Piggy's technically in the thick of the storm now. And for those of you who are just now tuning in, these planes have nicknames. This one is Kermit, and this one is Miss Piggy. Oh, man. You know what? I'm going to have to add that to the map, too. Yep, they're both getting closer here. We are getting real-time updates. Last time we wasn't getting this frequent of position updates. It just kind of all happened at once. So you can see they are very close to the eye. And they're also very close to each other. Apparently, there's 880 shelters in Jamaica. Only 133 shelters have people in them right now. Some parishes have 0 people in their shelters. Oh, there's a press conference. Link that. I think we should. Can we listen to that? Is that? Miss Piggy isn't flying. So which one is this? Okay, we probably can't. So AF 301, Air Force 301 here is about to go through the eye right now. Once again, within the next couple of minutes, we'll get that reading. It's been about 20 minutes since we've gotten a reading, even though we've gotten a position update. It's been since about back right here since we've actually gotten any data from the plane. So we'll get this whole path in here soon, but looks like we're gonna be able to watch it in real time go through the eye before we get that information. So the plane will be right here, and then we'll get a path update to about right here, and then probably it won't be until the plane's right here before we actually know what happened in the eye. I have a database somewhere that has the nicknames attached to the call signs on the plane, but I don't. Maybe we'll just have to come up with our own nicknames for them if I'm getting them wrong. Or I can just sit here and call them AF301 and NOAA 42. NOAA 42 just moved a little bit there, got a location update on it. I'd be surprised if we continue to get location updates real time from this one as close to the center of the storm as it is. NOAA 2 is at about 8,000 feet above sea level, going 266 miles per hour, 236 miles per hour. The Air Force plane here at 10,000 feet. So they're close together, but the Air Force plane's about 2,000 feet higher up in the air. NOAA 42 is Kermit, but AF 301 I guess is not, Miss Piggy. Do they not give nicknames to the Air Force planes? Is that what it is? Just the NOAA planes have nicknames? Okay, so we lost the real-time position updates on the Air Force plane, but we did just get a path update. Looks like right here on the edge of the storm, they recorded 63 mile per hour winds, 994 millibars of pressure. So the next update that we get should be a path update, and that will contain whatever they found in the actual center of the storm. Yeah, this is crazy. We're about to get 2 passes on the same side of the storm at the same time. It'll be really interesting to see what kind of differences the dropsons show. Like, I wonder if they will be different at all. Please make the planes 2 different colors. Oh, okay, yeah. All right, I'm cooking that up right now. Yeah, I'll make them different colors. We might as well get it set up the way we like it, because this is going to go on for a while.
Clear, and if we are wrong, we are bold enough to say we are wrong. But all the decisions that we have taken to safeguard the Jamaican people, we stand by those decisions. It is the Jamaican people that have to work with us now to ensure that we minimize as best as we can whatever the outcome is. Thank you.
Jared, let me know if I need to flip it over here. Yep, still getting real-time location updates from NOAA 2. So the planes aren't actually that close together right now. It's just the last update we got was back here for the Air Force plane. It's likely in the eye right now. NOAA 2 is currently right behind it. I'm gonna have to refresh and reload everything, but yeah, there we go. So now the NOAA plane is yellow, the Air Force plane is green. Does that work? We're developing a nice hurricane recon feature together, guys. We'll put this all in WeatherWise at some point. Kermit should have been green. Listen, we're doing best we can. If you're just now tuning in, we are anxiously awaiting some data here from these 2 hurricanes that are flying into Hurricane Melissa, which is a Category 5. One of these planes has already made a pass through and recorded 160 mile per hour winds and 910 millibar central low pressure. What we're looking for is on this next pass, is the pressure going to be lower? Is it 905? Is it 908? If that's the case, then the storm is getting stronger. If the central pressure is higher, if it's 910, 912, 915 even, it's getting a little bit weaker. Also, winds. We recorded 160 miles per hour on the last pass. Is that going to be higher on the eastern side of the storm? This is all very useful information, right? So we're about to find that out as soon as we get an update from our planes that are inside of the Category 5 hurricane right now. We're also about 14 and a half hours away from landfall in Jamaica. And you can keep up with the time down there. That's live updating. It will adjust as the storm path adjusts. Like if we think it's going to take longer, that'll automatically update. Yeah, we should have an update from the Air Force plane within the next minute. – 14 and a half hours before Melissa makes landfall in Jamaica. That's estimated. More than half of y'all think that the storm's gotten stronger, and we're about to find out for sure if that's the case right now. All health centers are closed, but all hospitals will remain open. They are concerned about a few hospitals on the coastline. Evacuation plans are in place for those hospitals if needed. They do anticipate a breach of some hospitals. All right, well, another update from the NOAA 2 plane, 70 mile per hour wind recorded on the outside of the storm core there. It should be very shortly here. We'll get an update from the core, the actual center. The Air Force plane should be blue. Listen, the only reason they are green, is because whenever we're not getting a location update from any of our sources, they turn gray. So it just made sense for me to be like, okay, let's turn them green to make sure that we're connected to our data sources. It's not like, changing the other one to yellow is temporary until I can figure out a way to properly have like a name tag on it or something. Oh, there we go. Oh, okay. So it looks like the pressure reading was missing from this. It did record 100. So the Air Force plane recorded 162 mile per hour winds. It's showing us pressure of 693 millibars, which means that one of the text fields was missing in the raw data. Because it's not really that low, obviously. So that might be like a pass that we can't even use to determine the pressure. So the way this works is they drop an instrument into the storm that sends back the data. And if the data comes back, corrupted, or if something's missing, you can't just like recalculate it. You can't redo it. You got to you got to go through again and drop another instrument, right? Which thankfully we've got another plane right behind this one that's going to do that right now. But the winds are a little bit stronger on the eastern side of the storm. 162 mile per hour winds recorded over there from the Air Force plane. 160 is what it recorded on the western side of the storm. Now, what is NOAA 2 or Kermit going to find? Also, so that last data point came in right on the edge of the eye. So maybe that's not even the lowest pressure. Maybe it recorded something even lower in the middle of the eye down here. So that's another thing we got to consider. That we can't control when the data points come in or at what point they start or stop coming in. You know what I mean? Yeah, 693 is not the true. That's literally not physically possible on Earth. So, we don't. The real number will be in the 900s, in the low 900s. Yeah, Eddie, I think so. I think that's what we're looking at here. Luke, thank you for the super chat. Mopar, thank you for the support. Says, can you take a look at that Colorado storm? Yeah, sure. Just while we wait on the next update from our planes here, let's go take a look at Colorado real quick. We do have a special weather statement out here for a storm that's south of Denver. And there's also a severe thunderstorm warning in Colorado right now. Big time hailer, 1-inch hail coming into Hugo. I wonder if we can see it from this camera. Can't see much. Yeah, not seeing a whole lot. But yeah, some strong storms right now in Colorado. This is what they look like. And yeah, that severe thunderstorm warning is for Elbert and Lincoln counties in Colorado. Now let's go back to the tropics here and await our update from NOAA 2 or Kermit. So we are waiting on, so this plane just went through the center of the storm. We're waiting on the rest of the data from that because it looks to me like the last point that we got there was not from the center of the eye. And then we're going to wait for another pass from this plane as well. So we've got a lot of very useful data coming in right now. Ian, thanks for becoming a member. What they need to do is put a weather station at every Dollar General store with a camera. I agree. This is something that we've talked about a lot on this channel. And one of these days, we're going to make it happen. Yeah, well, it wouldn't help much with our hurricane situation, no. But it would help everywhere else. Macho, yeah, I think that's what's happening right now. And we are just waiting for the next bit of data to come in from NOAA 2 or Kermit. Here, these are two planes that are actively flying through Category 5 Hurricane Melissa right now. 175 mile per hour winds officially from the National Weather Service on the last advisory. These planes might influence the Hurricane Center to actually change that a little bit. If we don't find any stronger winds at flight level here or, anywhere through the storm, they might lower that for a temporary period of time until the storm gets its act together. how do planes fly through a Category 5 storm? It's not a pleasant experience from what I've been told. But planes are like, you know, like planes are pretty tough, man. They don't build them very, like I said earlier, you can't take your Cessna through a Category 5, but these big planes that they take through are built for this. And don't get me wrong, it's dangerous. Something could definitely go wrong. But yeah, this is how we know what's going on in a hurricane. Every hurricane that happens, there's planes flying through it. Or else we wouldn't know anything about it other than what we see on satellite. Yeah, you got to be a good pilot, that's for sure. Yeah, they're dropping essentially probes. They're dropping what are called dropsondes. Essentially a similar thing as to what they launch in weather balloons, but it's the other way around. Okay, we got an update here from the Air Force plane. Let me double check here. Yeah, 910. 910 again. Hold on. This is having a hard time organizing itself here. So you can see we got 172 mile per hour winds on that. And if I'm not mistaken, it's 910 millibars for the pressure, but we might need to wait a second to let that update. So essentially, it's as far as the pressure goes, it's not a huge difference. Definitely much stronger winds on this pass. Yeah, 910 millibars is very, very insane. Okay, so the Air Force plane on the southwestern side of the storm, it recorded a 170 mile per hour wind gust. So we're honestly, a lot of this stuff is broken. Like even like all these websites that you can go look at this data on, it's coming in kind of difficult to parse. And you can see that even my overlays here are having a hard time. But these numbers right here are what we should go off of for the wind. When this plane entered on this side of the eye, it recorded 172 mile per hour winds. And then when this other plane, the Air Force plane, exited the eye, it recorded 170 mile per hour winds right here. The actual information down here will update on the next one. It's a little buggy right now. I don't know what's going on, but like the raw data that's coming in is a little messed up. But definitely much stronger winds on that. 172 miles per hour, 170. And once again, even if we can't use either of those, which we will be able to, I think the next update is going to clear a lot of the stuff up here, but they're going to do another pass. They're going to go back in again, and they might even do one more after that before they're done. So we're going to get lots of good data here. So we'll keep the camera up as we await another pass from our planes. So if you are just now tuning in, we now have planes that have recorded 172 mile per hour winds in the eye wall of Hurricane Melissa, which is pretty consistent with the latest update that we got from the National Hurricane Center of 175 mile per hour winds. So we'll get another advisory. We'll get another update here at some point, and we'll see if they change the winds or the pressure at all. But so far, it does look like we haven't found anything much lower as far as the pressure goes, which means that the storm is no longer rapidly intensifying like it has been over the past 24 hours. How long will that last? How long will it go through this cycle of not intensifying? We don't know the answer to that question. But the unfortunate thing is, and we talked about this earlier, is that all cyclones, all hurricanes go through this. And you want it to happen closer to landfall. We're still 14 hours away from this making landfall in Jamaica, at least. And what could happen is this whole wobbling, this whole destabilization of the eye wall and weakening of the storm may happen over the next 6 hours. It might take 10 hours before it sorts itself out. But the thing is there's a better chance now that it's going to be in a steady state or a strengthening state whenever it makes landfall, because the odds of another replacement cycle happening between now and 14 hours from now is low. This one will either be finished shortly or within the next 10 hours, and then who knows what's going to happen from there. Okay, so the 8 p.m. advisory is out. I'll share that with you as soon as it comes in. Is it in on my end? This is still 5 p.m. So the 8 p.m. advisory still has it at 175 mile per hour winds. No changes there. If there's any major changes that happens from the National Hurricane Center based off of these planes, they're probably going to wait until they do a few more passes anyways. The landslides from this are going to be awful. Yeah. There's a lot of different aspects of this storm that's going to be really bad in Jamaica. Landslides, flooding. The wind, the stuff that you would typically think of with a hurricane is just going to be one of very many things that is a problem out here. We got a guy on a motorcycle right now in Jamaica. I don't know how long we'll be able to continue to see sights like that. 5 hours from now, I don't think there was going to be anybody on a motorcycle in Jamaica. Which I don't know, maybe, who knows how long it's going to take for this thing to start moving north. It still isn't. But look at that. Last couple of frames, that eye certainly looks a little bit more stable. You see what I'm talking about? You see how it's a little bit more circular? Doesn't look like there's any new, like, very robust convection popping up right around the eye wall. Looks like things are getting a little bit more organized again, which is why it's so great that we have those planes out there. They're going to do several more passes. Now, I actually wouldn't be surprised if we saw a lower pressure on this next pass.